Being a new gecko owner and choosing your first gecko could be a daunting ask if you don't know what you're looking for. Like for example, this one's trash. We want to get a better looking gecko and want to make sure it's healthy. So let's go pick one out. First things first, you want to make sure you know what animal you're getting yourself into. Most gecko species make great pets, but a lot of them are very, very delicate, and it's not something that you should get if you don't know what you're getting yourself into. Something like a crested gecko though is a super easy pet to keep, and for first time keepers, it doesn't get any better than this. So make sure you do your research before you even go to a reptile show or you order online. The most important part of getting a gecko, in my opinion, is going through a breeder or somebody you trust. Now, the reason why I say that is because a reputable breeder isn't going to sell you an unhealthy animal. You're also going to be able to go back to that breeder if you have any questions after the fact of you getting the animal. Now, there's a lot of breeders out there and a lot of sellers that will sell you an animal and forget about you, but that is why it is important that you go with people that you trust, that have good reviews online, that have already a reputation in the market, because those are the people that you know that aren't gonna screw you over, and they're gonna give you a healthy, happy animal. And for instance, any customer that orders through us, we always make sure that they have the proper setup and that if they have any questions down the line, we are here to help them. If you're at a reptile show or picking out a gecko in person, it is important for you to know what species and how they move, what species you're getting into and how they move. Now, a gecko like this, the Chihuahua geckos and most New Caledonian geckos are going to be, they can be fast, but for the most part, they're gonna be very docile. But let's say you're picking out a day gecko. If a day gecko is acting like this, there's probably something wrong, because day geckos are more active, they're more alert, and they tend to move a lot quicker. So you wanna make sure that the gecko's not moving lethargic. If that gecko barely has energy when it's awake and you're taking it out and handling it, it is not usually a good sign. Another thing that I look at when I'm picking out a gecko in person is the eyes. The eyes are the windows to the soul. If you see a gecko that his eyes are drawn in or sucked in and it's, awake and moving, it's usually not a good sign. It could be a sign of dehydration, or it could just mean an unhealthy gecko overall. So you want nice, shiny eyes. You want them to be very, bold and bulging out on most gecko species. And if you see anything wrong with the eyes, that's usually not a good sign from the get-go. Unintended. Something to consider when you're getting a gecko is the size of the animal that you want to get started with. Now, if you're not super familiar with the species, or it's your first time and you're not very confident on the animal and how to care for them, then you may want to go with an adult or a sub-adult. If you are wanting to, experience what it is like to grow out your own gecko and maybe, create more of a relationship with the animal so it could be tamed, you want to start off with a big juvenile like this one here, or even a baby. Now, the babies are always going to be more delicate than some of the bigger geckos. The cool thing that I like about it is that you're going to get to see the progression of the colors, the patterns, and just the overall animal. You're going to be able to handle the animal as often as you want as it's growing up. So it's going to be more tame than some other gecko that you might get as an adult and it's not used to interacting with people. Now, before you go out to your local reptile shop or store or show and you inquire about a gecko, you got to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into in terms of the price of the animal. Some animals are very cool looking, but they're very expensive, like this one here. This is an Australian rough-throated leaf-tailed gecko, and these geckos go for $1,000 each. Now, for a beginner, it's not a hard animal to take care of, but it's probably not the best price that you want to go with when you're starting off with a reptile collection. So do your research, make sure you know what colors you like. There's a wide variety of range between the particular colors and patterns within a particular species as well. So you'll have some crested geckos that cost $50, and then you'll have some crested geckos that cost $1,500. So you don't waste your time or the seller's time. Make sure you do your research in terms of the market. You want to see, okay, I like this color, I like this type of morph. How much does that cost? If it's something that you could afford or that you want to spend, okay, then you could go from there and you could start inquiring about an animal in that particular morph. But if it's something out of your price range, then maybe take a step back and look at some of the cheaper animals when you want to get started. That's something that's very important and a lot of people don't take into consideration, because I have a lot of people that get their hopes super high when they see an animal like this. Oh, I want a gecko like that, but you know, it's a little bit on the pricier side. So just make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. When the price comes, you make sure you look at the gecko's body, the movement, the eyes. All these things are super important, as well as picking out the right breeder, and that's how you guys will pick the right gecko that's for you.